My golden child brother stole my fiancée and got her pregnant, but my family sided with him. After many years, my family now wants me to provide financial support to raise the child. 5 years ago, precisely 1 month prior to my current 30th birthday, I was set to tie the knot with my fiancée. She was having an affair with my brother, and the only reason they were telling me about it was because she was expecting a child and wanted to keep the relationship going. My brother Chris, 33, and my ex-girlfriend Karen, 35. Apparently, M has been having affairs ever since Karen and I were engaged. Since Karen and I had been dating since our junior year of high school and had continued our relationship throughout college, getting engaged was undoubtedly the next logical step. Nevertheless, she chose to cheat on me with my brother after we became engaged. That was only possible because, shortly after our engagement, my brother told her he had always had affections for her and felt compelled to inform her of his thoughts because she was getting married. That's the only reason it even happened. And after that, he was at a loss for what to tell her about these things. Subsequently, she abruptly realized that she had been steadily developing affections for him as well. They even seemed to periodically flirt behind my back at family get-togethers and other functions, but she had stayed with me since she wasn't sure about him. 5 years ago, a few months before my wedding, I learned all of these things when the two of them sat me down with my parents and told me that they were going to get married and that Karen could no longer marry me because they were having a baby together. I told Karen that I wanted her to come home with me and quit this relationship, whatever it was with Chris, because I was so furious about it that day and had almost refused to believe it. Nevertheless, my mother had made it very apparent that Chris and Karen would be together, and I would have to accept that since it was ultimately their choice. The idea that my mother would endorse such a thing was so unbelievable to me. My mother was obviously simply encouraging this, telling me to keep my problems to myself if I had any, but at least my dad looked ashamed and tried to console me. Since Karen was expecting, I had no right to disturb her in such a vulnerable state. My mother battled with me tooth and nail to defend what was happening because she was so excited to finally have a grandchild in the family that she could barely care about what I was going through. Karen moved in with my family following that day's argument since her own parents would not talk to her after she had told them the truth. My parents paid for the wedding, so I didn't have to worry about that either, even if we had to postpone it. But I was expelled from the family for not speaking to them, and we haven't spoken at all for the last 5 years. My father was the only one who had bothered to try to get in touch with me, and I wasn't even bothered to talk to him. Because Karen and I have been together for a very long time, there has been radio silence since. It also took me a very long time to move on once I severed my relationship with them. It took me a lot of therapy to move on from it because I had truly loved her. I wouldn't say that I am completely over it even now, but I am managing it. However, the rest of the family remained in contact with me, and I did learn from them that she was the mother of my brother's son. There was also no need to get in touch with me following a paternity test within a month of her giving birth to her baby, which established that the child was indeed my brother's and not mine. They eventually tied the knot and have been together for the previous 5 years. I had thought that everything was going well for them until my mother called unexpectedly about a week ago. I was surprised because she had been the one who had supported Karen and Chris the most, almost to the point of being unhealthy. She sent me an email stating that she needed to talk to me right away, so I decided to give her a call back out of curiosity. My brother had tragically been involved in a serious accident, and when I contacted her, she broke the news to me while sobbing. Unfortunately, he had gone into a coma as a result of the accident in this hit-and-run case, and it was unclear when he would wake up. This occurred only last week, and my mother decided to phone me to let me know about it 3 days after the doctors had told me that things were now pretty severe. Initially, I assumed she would ask me to go see him and support the family, and I would have been happy to oblige since, despite everything, I believe this to be a very important matter, and it would have been a fair enough expectation to have of me. Furthermore, I don't want to abandon someone who is in such horrible shape. However, my mother suddenly changed her mind and stated that I should be there for Karen and my nephew. It was beyond my comprehension what that meant. She went on to say that she now expected me to support them and my brother's home. I pressed her for additional details, and she said that I had to support Karen and her child in any way possible, since Chris was essentially no longer there. She wasn't just talking about the money. She truly expected me to move in with them so I could take care of them. She claimed that if she had been younger, she would have taken care of them all herself. but it would have been too much work. She was calling to inform me of this, and she anticipated that I would decide during the call. She did not talk to me for 5 years, so I guess I lost my patience. And now that she was at last speaking with me, she wanted me to take such a drastic step that I could realize that, although Karen and her kid were currently on their own, they needed someone to support them, and that someone should have been a member of their direct family rather than me. Someone she had deceived, and yet she had not even bothered to say sorry to. I clearly informed my mother right away that I would never do anything of the such, and that she was crazy to even think that I would agree to it. I had little time to waste when she started arguing with me over the phone. I quickly hung up and blocked her again since I didn't want to disrupt my already unpleasant conversation with her. I was already very furious. After that, I made an effort to carry on with my day as usual, but I couldn't help but feel awful for Chris and Karen because of what they were going through. However, it was evident that I was not going to follow my mother's request and replace my brother in their family. That would just be strange. He was still living. It wasn't like he had already died. He had simply fallen into and it appeared as though she had lost him. I was feeling quite uneasy about the whole thing. I reasoned that my father would be more rational than my mother, so I chose to call him later that day. After a 5-year absence, I approached him and we struck up a conversation. I inquired about Chris's well-being and he informed me that things were not looking good at the moment. I then informed him about my earlier that day's talk with my mother, and I thought he would have some sane perspective. Nevertheless, he added that my mother was correct to anticipate that from me. That really caught me off guard because out of the two of my parents, my dad was typically the more sensible one, and now even he was making such strange comments. I questioned him about if he truly meant that. He admitted to me that he had, saying that I am still a member of the family and that Karen and I had a history together. For the previous 5 years, our relationship has been. Since I am related to them, I should be the one to stand up for the family. Furthermore, my mother's expectations aren't wholly unjustified. That truly caught me off guard, and I'm not sure what to do at all at this point. I haven't spoken to any of my family members, not even my other relatives, for the past week because I'm terrified that they will bring this up to me, and then I will have to defend my choices. In addition, I feel a little guilty about not standing up for my family, even though I know they need me a lot, at the very least emotionally, if not monetarily. To be honest, I don't know what to do. Although I am aware that what my mother is asking of me is incredibly strange and irrational, I still feel guilty about turning it down flatly. I feel so strange about the whole thing that I haven't even gone down to the hospital to see my brother. Because everything about this is so personal, I have also been unable to discuss it with any of my friends. They are aware of my family's relationship with me following the cancellation of my wedding, but, to be honest, this is a little stranger than that. I truly believe that I need some unbiased advice regarding what I should do, therefore that's why I'm writing this on Reddit right now, whether it be from friends or relatives. It is inevitable for there to be bias in any kind of view. I think I'm going to go crazy if I don't figure out a workable solution to all of this. Therefore, I truly need guidance, since it took me a long time to come out of the truly dark place where I was thinking about Karen and Chris non-stop after I discovered that she had been cheating on me. I genuinely feel as though I'm returning to that period of my life. So please, tell me anything that anyone has to say, no matter how severe the criticism may be, just so I may at least divert my attention. I did this as a result of my refusal to support my family after my brother was involved in an accident and go see them. First update. Hi everyone. I so made the decision to postpone my visitation of my family. Right now, it's just too much for me. Because of what my parents were telling me, I was unaware of how severe my anxiety had been over the past week. However, I'm currently taking my anti-anxiety medications again and attempting to manage things. I am very appreciative to everyone who has left me messages in my original post's comments section, as well as in my direct messages, expressing their love and support and reassuring me that I'm not alone. Thus, I sincerely appreciate that. Since I don't think I can handle this all on my own, I have also talked to a few of my close friends and confided in them about what's happening. Additionally, they have informed me that I can contact them at any time. Simply got to get everything off my chest. They have also informed me that I should prioritize taking care of myself, regardless of what other people are going through in life, and that my choice to stay home and not go see them at this time is the appropriate one. Chris and my family have prioritized themselves thus far, so I ought to follow suit. In all honesty, I don't think I need to provide them with emotional support either. They have one another. They're capable of handling things on their own. After the wedding, when it was canceled and I discovered that my parents had cheated on me, I was the one without any support from my immediate family. Instead, they turned against me and chose my brother, even though he was the one who had acted improperly and ought to have been taken out of the family. However, it is all in the past, and I'm making an effort to let go of it. If I go back to them again, I won't be able to accomplish it. I've blocked them all again, and I'm not going to change my mind about not communicating with them. I can't be the type who desires for someone to suffer no matter what they have done. So please accept my sincere apologies for what happened to my brother and my sincere hope that he gets well soon so that things turn out well for them. But I'm leaving now. Now that I'm concentrating only on my own mental health, I'm thinking about returning to therapy because of how I handled this and how deeply these things my parents said affected me. I don't think I'm handling all of this as well as I thought I was. Therefore, I truly think I need to talk to a professional. And once more, all of those old emotions are surfacing. I'm just going to start thinking about myself right now. Second update. According to what I've heard from a few family members, my brother's condition is still rather serious and is not getting better. He had remained in the hospital for about 2 weeks. I feel horrible for the family because things are so bad for them, but I'm at a loss on what to do. Apart from myself, everyone who knows my family has visited my brother at the hospital at least once in the last 2 weeks to pay their respects for the horrific disaster that occurred. That's what I would have done. However, I also learned from my relatives that my parents have been disparaging me and painting me as the villain to anybody who has paid them a visit. They are reportedly telling everyone that I was invited to visit them and support the family, but I declined and said that this was retaliation for me having cheated on them, that my brother deserved this 5 years ago. Just to be clear, I didn't say anything like that. Several of them got in touch with me to find out if this was real or not, since they thought that, given my usual kindness toward everyone, it was not something I would say. I told them straight up that I didn't say these things and that my parents were making it up to make me look bad when they questioned me about it. Most likely a response from me. Alternatively, it could be exactly like that, given my parents' character. Having previously messed up my life once, I was just incredibly disappointed that they were making up stories and saying such things about me in order to make me seem like a nasty guy. I consider myself fortunate that my family inquired about it, as I doubt that any member of the family would have been in communication with me at this juncture if they had simply decided to accept my parents' story. Although my parents have not been in contact with me for the last 5 years, my aunts, uncles, and cousins have all supported me. My parents must not have been able to take it since I truly did not want to lose that. They therefore made the decision to try to ruin that for me as well. I simply don't get why people detest me so much. I have never touched them in real life. Although my brother and I have never been very close, and my parents have always had affection for him since we were young, this feels needless and over the top. 3 updates. Hello? My mother decided to get in touch with me once again today after I posted an update 2 days ago. She had no choice but to come to me in order to speak with me because I had barred them everywhere. She was waiting for me when I got home from work, so that was something. I was so tired from work already that I just didn't feel like talking to her. She saw me and I had to go talk to her, even though I was on the verge of returning to the car. It would be quite difficult to get rid of her if I allowed her to live with me, so that was not my plan. I chose to speak with her in the front yard, which turned out to be a horrible idea for me because she soon just started ranting at me, drawing the neighbors' notice as well. The talk got off to a fairly normal start. She merely struck up a conversation with me, to which I had to respond courteously. But then I couldn't resist asking her why she'd been spreading false information about me to make me seem like a nasty guy. Even after my family had treated me badly, I had never longed for anything terrible to happen to them, so I told her that it was unfair and that all I really wanted was to move on with my life. However, they were making that extremely difficult for me. I've been suppressing these emotions for a very long time. I couldn't control myself, and it just spilled out of me when I saw her. Ultimately, I informed her that I was really disappointed with their behavior and found it extremely difficult to think of them as a family after everything that had transpired. They had never treated me that way. I just got home from work, so anything she had come to talk to me about should wait, as I wasn't in the mood to argue or talk to anyone about anything that would be too emotionally taxing. She had been listening to me calmly up until that point. But when I told her that I didn't want to talk to her at that time, she became very irate and claimed that my father and she had been acting rationally. She also claimed that she was just here to apologize for the exact things that I had mentioned. Initially, they were quite irate with my response, as I had declined to support my family and even pay a visit to my brother when he was in the hospital. However, they later understood that I was still clearly furious with them for the previous 5 years, even though they hadn't exactly treated me well. That's the reason I wasn't there. She felt that the family should stay together for the purpose of emotional stability at this time, so she had come to talk to me and attempt to work things out between us. However, after I told her that I didn't want to talk to her, she decided that she would scream at me instead. She said that based on my reaction when she learned of my brother's injury, I should just be happy that I still have family because, at the time, she thought I should be cut off, and that the other members of my family should also stop talking to me forever. She clarified that she seemed to think that my response to hearing of my brother's injury had not been depressing enough when I didn't comprehend what she was talking about. She added that she had assumed that when I was informed about my brother's injury, I would at the very least have displayed some emotion, even though I had no idea what she had expected me to do. However, I had come across as incredibly uninterested during the call. I was obviously going to be affected by a news like that, regardless of our personal relationship. Indeed, it has. Despite our personal ties, as I had previously stated, I would not wish it upon anyone, including my family. That's why I was really angry to learn about his accident. Perhaps it was lost in the phone call because she was unable to see my face, but her excuses were utterly unfounded and nonsensical. She continued by saying that it just demonstrated how little I cared for the family that I had stood up for Karen and my nephew instead of my brother. I genuinely believed that my parents had started to lose their minds since these things are so bizarre and needless, and she was just making stuff up to explain how they were acting. Nevertheless, I became even less interested in talking to her when she began ranting at me, so I just made the decision to invite her into my home and ask her to go. After a while, I opened my house's door and went inside while she was still ranting at me. She attempted to follow me in, but I begged her to leave since I was really angry and did not want to talk to her anymore. She battled with me, but before she ultimately left, she cursed me out and threatened to hold me accountable for this shortly. I told her that I would contact the police. I'm not sure what that implies, not even that I'm curious to find out what that means. All I want to do is unwind and carry on with my life. Fourth update. Hi there. After 26 days since the accident, my family was finally able to inform everyone of some positive news today. It goes without saying that they kept it from me directly. It was my cousins who first told me about it. The good news is that my brother's condition is finally improving. It's encouraging that he is reacting well and is no longer in a coma. I sincerely hope he succeeds and keeps getting better from this point on. Despite the fact that I was expelled from the family long ago, the past month has been extremely stressful for the entire family, including me. However, I have come to believe that my parents are insane based on the manner they have been pursuing me over the last 26 days. Furthermore, I believe they were simply venting their annoyance at me, following my most recent conversation with my mother, which I discussed in my previous update. After a few days without hearing from her, my father called to say he was at me instead. I couldn't tell that it was him because he used a different phone number than usual. And the moment I answered the phone, he began ranting at me so fast that I didn't even have time to hang up after realizing it was him. He was also pretty astute about it. Rather of phoning me at any regular time of day, he tried to catch me off guard so he could shout at me. He chose to phone me at 5 in the morning, knowing full well that I would be asleep when he called and would be disoriented when I woke up to answer. A few days following my conversation with my mother, my father called me at 5 in the morning. When I answered the phone for the 4th time, after nearly 3 tries, he began an angry tirade about what an unappreciative child I was and expressed his wish that I had never been born. He threatened to ensure that the rest of the family never spoke to me again, calling me a horrible person for not even making the effort to visit my brother in the hospital throughout his excruciating ordeal and for not supporting the family. I was still trying to understand everything that was happening, so he ended up hanging up the phone after I had been yelling for about 5 minutes. By the time I finished, he had blocked me and hung up. It wasn't particularly humorous. However, looking back, I think it's comical how desperate my parents are to make me look terrible and yell at me for no apparent reason. They are prepared to go above and above in these ways. I've already stated that I think they were venting their annoyance on me for these reasons alone. All they had to do was get out of court. I had to be there for the family as usual. However, since my family knows that I'm not incorrect, it's okay that my father was unable to persuade them against me. They are also aware of the events from 5 years ago. Anyway, I just hope they get off my back and simply concentrate on my brother now that his condition is getting better. Update number 5. Hi there. Returning to this place after nearly 3 years seems quite strange. Since then, a great deal has happened, much of it for the better. Now, I reside in Germany for work. In addition to moving here a year and a half ago, I also started dating someone. I've been dating my girlfriend for 8 months, and we've had nothing except joy. To be honest, it has also been delightful for me to have had no communication at all with my family during the last 3 years. It's different because I have maintained contact with my good relatives. Right now, my brother is doing great. He made it through the accident, and while his recovery from it took a while, he is currently doing well. After my brother had begun to heal, Karen had come to me to chat and apologize for everything that had happened in the past. However, I simply told her that an apology was not necessary at this time. On behalf of herself and my brother, she had visited me with a bouquet of flowers to express her regret after word spread that I was relocating to Germany for employment. Since he was still too ashamed of what had transpired 8 years prior, my brother was unable to visit me, but in all honesty, it was no longer relevant. I didn't even care. I just told them that I was sorry. That was accurate. Since I was going on to better things in my life, I didn't really care. I've been here ever since, and my parents have stopped talking to me, and I'm really glad about that because I would never, ever allow that to happen again. I'm content at last now. Anyway, I best get back to my life now that you are all caught up. I sincerely appreciate everyone who not only asked after me in the comments and other places, but also showed me such love and concern when I was posting on this site.